of the great things, Tom, of course, about writing about theater in London, as I do, is seeing these sort of beginnings of people's careers, and then their careers develop in all sorts of ways, as yours obviously has. But it seems like most British actors begin in the theater, pretty much most of the major ones. And then they do or don't go on to cinema. When you were in the theater early on, what did you think about a film career? Did it seem totally remote, or were you always eyeing it, or how did cinema seem?
Gosh, it's so hard to retroactively go back. I went to drama school really to train to be a theatre actor, because I knew that drama school really gave you tools for stagecraft that you needed, I thought. And it gave you a kind of physical rigor and a professionalism and a way of attacking different texts and characters and methodologies. And I wanted to sort of immerse myself in learning accents and stage fighting and to do everything from Shakespeare to Miller to Tennessee Williams and all these wonderful kind of the world of the theatre. And when I started in the theatre, it seemed very remote, this movie world. It seemed like you had to it was like being picked to play for Manchester United or Real Madrid, just impossible, you know, like, and it seemed very, you know, I would be in productions like the ones you saw at the Don Mar or whatever, and I'd audition for films and people would say, great audition, not this time, and I go, okay. And I started making a list. I wanted to sort of make a list of directors I'd met so I didn't forget them if I met them again. And I had to stop making the list because I would never book anything. And people would always call my agent and say, you know, Tom's terrific. He's like, we came to see him in the play. There was always this question of finance and funding in need of, you know, it would just seem like, I was like, well, forget it. It's never going to happen. And then I kind of, I suppose I kind of broke my own rules a bit. And I became fascinated by, I was very lucky in the theatre to work with some very established film names, I suppose. I worked with Ewan McGregor and Chiwetel Ejiofor in Othello. And then I'd done a television thing with Dame Judi Dench and obviously with Kenneth Branagh. And I found that their stories were quite interesting, and they kind of demystified the whole thing for me. They sort of said, oh, don't listen to what they tell you, you know, it's nonsense, you know. There was a received wisdom, certainly in my generation, that to go to America and try and start a film career was, you had to go off the back of some enormous homegrown success, like, I don't know, like Ewan in Trainspotting, for example. So then actually I was signed by an agent in Los Angeles who came to see Othello. And that never happens, you know. An LA agent comes to see Shakespeare and goes, that kid, he looks good, okay. I sort of took a punt and went over to LA and just went with an open mind and an open heart, and I got lucky, I guess.
And interestingly, of course, Loki does have a theatrical thread because Thor was directed by somebody with whom you'd appeared on screen many times and actually on stage, Kenneth Branagh, and your wonderful performance in Chekhov's Ivanov on the West End. When you were doing that play with Ken, was he sort of taking you backstage going, you know, actually, I've got this little blockbuster bubbling up, which I'd quite like you to do when you finish this Chekhov stuff?
Truly. When it was announced that he was directing the film, in the interval, I ran up to his dressing room with an enormous, empty water cooler, pretending it was the hammer of Thor, in costume. And
you got the job right then.
Because it was so, in my own mind, it was so outrageously unavailable. You know, it was just not gonna, there was no way I was gonna be considered. And then it so happened that I was talking to my LA agent who'd seen me in Othello after that. And I was in Los Angeles kind of noodling around, just sort of seeing what was there. And he was there too. And so he asked me to come and audition for the role of Thor, because at that time, I mean, it's sort of an amazing character in a way, because it's like, on one level, Chris Hemsworth, who ended up getting it, and who is monumental in the role, I have to say. And he's a dear friend, and so there's absolutely no bad blood between us at all. It requires such physical stature, but also it requires a great actor who can go from arrogance to vulnerability to, but who can also sell the action of a big blockbuster, and so they really didn't know what they wanted, so they were looking at everybody, and I was over 6 foot and blonde, so I passed muster there, and I auditioned, and then eventually sort of got down to the wire, and the producers sort of said, this guy's kind of, it's all right, like, we should put him in the film somewhere, and I should say publicly, and I'm pleased to be able to say it, that I owe Kenneth Branagh an enormous debt of gratitude. I owe him so much, because the business is so often, that side of it, the big movie business, not the art, not the people, sort of the creative people, but the people with the dollars, they're so scared of investing in something that's not going to work, and Ken was able to say to producers on a film that cost a lot of money, Tom will, he's got it, don't worry, and to do that, it's just an amazing thing to do for a young actor. Like, everyone needs a break. And like I've said, there were many, many, many people. There's a long list of people who didn't give it to me. And I was starting to think that it was kind of never going to happen.
Of course, you had a completely different physical transformation to do the Thor sequence, and you're currently shooting the 3rd one in the series.
It's, I'm so proud to be in that film, because there's part of me, and I think there's a part of any actor, that's basically still a 5-year-old child. And I grew up watching things like Christopher Reeve in Superman, and Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, and superheroes. It's the biggest. It's a toy box, and I love playing that character because he's actually really complex for a superhero, for a supervillain. And part of the appeal is to do with the physical transformation, because I've never wanted to be, and it kind of threads into what we were saying about Britishness, I've never wanted to be boxed in by a type of character that I always play. I find I just wouldn't find it very interesting, and I don't think anyone else would. And part of the reason I'm an actor is I'm interested in different shades of the truth in different parts of life, and how quite often we're, like, the human race is bound together by a certain unity in things, and that acting in whatever you're in is about excavating the things that make us all the same: birth, death, love, grief, loss, loneliness, gratitude, generosity, humor, solitude, and all of those things exist in every story, in any time, in any place. And so the joy for me, the joy for me of playing different people from different times in different costumes with different hair color and different shades, is that whether it's the Deep Blue Sea or Ivanov or the Avengers, you're still kind of digging around in humanity. And the fun stuff is that, in Avengers, you get to fly through the air and be beaten almost to a pulp by the Incredible Hulk, which not many actors have done.
Yeah. Doesn't happen in Chekhov.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen in Chekhov. And I loved it. I loved the fact that I loved that you're taking this picture. I mean, here I am. I've got blonde hair. I was born in London, and it was never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be playing the Norse god of mischief, come down to tyrannize the human race and take over the planet, because I've got some, daddy issues, and some brother issues, and and I want my throne, you know. You know, but also in a film like that, which is so beautifully tied together, actually, it's actually very tightly written. And it's very entertaining and very funny, and I got to work with people like Robert Downey Jr. and Samuel L. Jackson, and you know, it's a great cast of people.
About the look, I mean, what do you shape it? Do you say, I want my hair to be longer, shorter, more, you know, breastplate, boots? How do you get to the look?
Well, I'm starting to. Well, I had a long time initially before the first Thor film. I simply started with, the great thing about the character is he's actually ancient. He is part of Norse mythology, which goes back as far, if not further, than the Greco-Roman mythology. And Loke turns up in Scandinavian myths everywhere. He was like Dionysus or Bacchus. He was the spirit who people were afraid of. You know, he was the monster that parents told their children about at night. No, you don't have to feel sorry for him. But it's fascinating. You read the Norse myths and you realize that there's actually a huge amount of material there. And then what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did when they started drawing the Marvel comics in the 60s is when they invented Thor and Loki and Odin, they were borrowing and very honestly kind of sort of stealing from this pantheon of Norse gods. And then so I read all the comics, and it starts off being much sillier than even I did it. In the first runs of the comics, Loki comes down and he turns a whole street of cars in New York into ice cream because he thinks it's funny.
It is.
It kind of is. And he changes it. You know, he looks very much like a comic book character. And so there was a thing of trying to be true to the look of the comic book, because that's what we're doing, is we're making a film of a comic, but also trying to make it palatable to a regular film-going audience who just like movies, but making it a real story genuinely about a father and two sons, and something that people could connect to. And so Ken and I talked about the Shakespearean references of fathers and sons and brothers, and you know, it's shot through with all that stuff. And then in terms of creating the look, we just talked about it and said, you know, how do we make something that's both regal and kind of athletic and sort of majestic, and also dark, but also practical, you know, because you have to get through the day and fight in it, so it has to move. So it's a very complicated sort of scenario. And then, as the Americans have this word, which I think is kind of untranslatable, which is badass.
He's a badass.
He's a badass,
Yeah.
and so sometimes the Marvel producers are great because they go, you know, Tom, we want you to look like, we want you to be able to move, and we want you to be able to we basically want you to look awesome and badass. And you go, okay, and then you sort of experiment, and it's almost like a mask. It's like any character, you need a mask through which to project that particular truth. Loki's truth is one of insanity and deranged evil, and he's, you know, hurt and lost and lonely, but dyeing my hair black and sort of painting my face in a way, it gives me so much, so that after 2 hours of sitting in makeup and going through costume, you look in the mirror and you're a completely different shape. And it's kind of interesting.
And you're back in this world, of course, again for the next installment.
Yeah.
Do you want to whet the audience's appetite with just a little bit of where the journey takes us now?
I want to tell you, but I would have to.
You'd have to be shocked.
Yeah, I would have to kill you all, which I'm sure Loki would love to do, but I don't want to do that. I just can't. I can't say anything. My hands are tied. There are probably snipers hired by Marvel Film Studios in the back of the room.